Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing Live Show number 158. With me is our special co-host, Mr. Scott Macklin, which I had to ask because it has a cute, unique way of being written. And also with me is our perennial happy co-host, who is usually quiet, demure, and like vanilla on a wall, Mr. Edward St. Ange from Flip2.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Scott, thank you very much for joining us. Oh, I forgot to mention, you are with Sojourn. Out of that whole wonderful introduction, I forgot to mention why you're actually here. But thank you so much for joining us. I've been looking forward to getting you on. A couple of reasons. One is because you and I have been having a dialogue as to what Sojourn's doing, how they're progressing in the new markets and so forth, and also meta-search and a bunch of other stuff. And true to our show's form, we would love to turn it over to the whims of whatever you want to talk about, how you want to talk about it. We'll probe, and be rude and evasive and try to talk over you and everything else. No,
let's do it. Yeah,
actually, you're lucky. You're on a week that Robert Cole's not on the show. So you'll actually have some time. You'll actually be able to talk.
Because we have one of the things we've learned with this platform is because you can't really, in a normal conversation, you can tell when somebody's trying to talk, but because you're talking, sometimes the earbud doesn't pick up somebody else. So the only way to actually get into the conversation is just power through. Say, no, just plow right on.
Who can talk the loudest, basically?
You may be in the middle of a thought, but here's a completely different topic.
Here's a completely different topic, absolutely. But with that in mind, Mr. Scott, please, thank you. And again, thank you for joining us today. Pick a topic, pick a subject. What would you like to throw into the hat?
Yeah, why don't we, just to pick one out, why don't we talk about search marketing for hotels, since I know that can be a pretty big pain point.
Cool, absolutely.
So I think that, one of the challenges out there is when people are trying to search for your hotel is a lot of times you have the OTAs taking up all the top spots on Google. And, your choices are either let them take all those bookings. And I don't know if you guys know, you can see that all of the organic listings on Google over time just steadily get shifted lower down the page. And you do a search on a phone, everything is a paid ad. You can't even get to the organic stuff unless you scroll down below the fold. And we know how much, more, I know that at least 40% of our traffic on search marketing is on mobile right now. So it's a tough world out there. So what you can do is you can go compete against the OTAs, bid on your own brand terms, bid on prospecting terms. And it's something definitely encouraged because I think that you can see a really positive ROI by bidding on those terms. The tricky part is you just have to be careful with what you're doing because with search marketing, it's pretty easy to spend a lot of money real quick if you don't know what you're doing. So, there's a lot of resources out there. AdWords has a lot of good training, but I think that's one of the main things that I just want to make sure that a lot of, your properties and the people who work there are aware of that, you can kind of fight back and compete against the OTAs because they're allowed to bid on your brand terms. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll do some tricks, they'll put your property's name in the display URL, but it'll be the Seaside Inn .reservations.com. So someone
and by the way, you can have control over that. When you're negotiating with the OTAs, is that when it comes to displaying your brand term, you control the rights to that. You can restrict their rights to do that, and hold them to be required to restrict the rights of any of their reseller relationships to also be restricted from doing that. There's been some cases lately where some companies have gone as far as to opening lawsuits to get Reservations Desk and players like that to stop. One thing I'd recommend is just remember in the game of, especially when you're talking about bottom of funnel search terms, you're playing basketball against an NBA player going against the OTA. So just in that case, think about it this way. Are you going to try to beat that NBA player at the core skill sets that they've been working towards their entire life? Or are you going to try to find the tricks on how you stand a chance to score against them. And the best marketers find holes in the OTA's bidding strategy, and they live inside those holes. It's a much more effective way to spend your search marketing dollars, and really not waste your money. Because I'll be honest with you, in most cases, it's not just the OTA spend that you're up against, it's also the consumer journey. And in a lot of cases, the OTA's consumer journey is superior to your own. And if you know that's the case, which you can easily look at, then that means you need to be a ninja in the way you go after deploying your ad dollars, correctly.
Totally agree, Edward. And I think to verify that, we're going to have to set up a match with you and LeBron James and just see what goes down now.
And watch, the only chance...
I don't think Ed would have any tricks that's going to win with.
The only chance of me scoring is to play a game that LeBron just can't even do.
No, you have to figure something out, right? You can't go head to head. No, those are all great points. And yeah, I suggest that you try to at least get some language in the contract to prevent them from advertising using your terms. They can always bid on your terms. You can bid on whatever you want, but as you were saying, if you can get some language around them not being able to put your branded name in the ad copy, it can do wonders for boosting your click-through rate and driving more direct bookings.
Yep.
Scott,
sorry, go ahead, Lauren.
Go ahead, Ed. I was going to say is that, Scott, with your dealings with your clients, are you finding that they understand this, or that they understand who in their organization is supposed to be handling this? Or are you finding that there's a lot of, what are you talking about? Or, well, I think somebody's doing that. Who's doing that? I mean, what are you finding with most of your relationships that this is being taken care of the way you're describing it?
Totally. It's a great question. It's definitely a mixed bag. There are some properties or smaller chains, like they really know what they're doing. They either have someone in-house or they hire someone. I actually used to be a consultant in search marketing for about 8 years after I did in-house at StubHub and eBay. And, I would get...
I've never heard of those companies.
Right?
Saying that, like, people...
What are these small companies? Are they still in business? What is this?
They don't spend much on search advertising at all.
No.
Yeah, so we, so sometimes they'll hire someone who can spend like 5-10 hours a week just optimizing the campaigns. But for a lot of them, it's just not cost effective to have someone in-house dedicated to doing that. But their alternative is you either are having someone in-house do it who doesn't know what they're doing. I've seen some real horror stories. When we were first launching Sojourn Search product, I would go in and audit some of the accounts, and it was a disaster. So a lot of people they'll take...
So wait, so what are you guys doing in search now? Because I haven't looked at it in a while.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you may be familiar with our pricing model is RevDirect, which is commission-based, risk-free. You pay after the stay, after cancellations, which is great. So our flagship product in that was display advertising.
Right.
And so about 1.5 years ago, we launched a search product. So basically, we will get your hotel up on Google and Bing. We do all the keyword sourcing, ad creation, ad extension creation, get it launched quickly, and then you see in our portal the bookings we drive. Same process with display. You reconcile it. You only pay after the stay and net of cancellations. The other great thing is that because you're also running display with us, we dedupe all the conversions and the bookings between display and search, so you're not double paying for anything. Whereas if you're running with a bunch of different agencies, say, you end up kind of double paying if you're not on top of it.
Right. Well, and you get into attribution war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that was the challenge, and I know you guys did a good job compared to some others that have done display. But one of the challenges when you had everything kind of fighting for attribution modeling is the bottom line is the consumer journey is more than one click.
Oh, totally.
And so, being on display and also then paying for a different presence, you have to understand that if both are competing for saying that it was theirs, they're both just going to say it was theirs.
Exactly.
So it's good that you guys moved into that, because also displays had some challenges due to the changes in browsers and tracking and how
all the Safari
how cookies are treated and all of that. Which Listen, I'm sure the Sojourn of old wasn't excited about it, but it actually is for the betterment of the consumer experience. So while it's painful, these things happen, it's to happen to keep the consumer experience solid, which has the spillover effect. But you guys have done a good job of shifting your model and taking the things that you had mastered through your display approach and applying it to other parts of marketing. So, pretty
appreciate
interesting.
that. Yeah, definitely agree. Like, attribution, there's definitely not a right answer, right? But I think you're right there. You can move toward more sophisticated kind of attribution models that capture better what's going on with your marketing. Because you're right, it's not, people don't just search one time and book, or look at a banner ad and like, oh, I'm definitely staying at that hotel, let me go to their website directly and book. Like, there's just this whole process of what you see out there, your price checking on different sites. So yeah, we try as best we can, and we're continuing to improve it. And yeah, I love that we're rolling out, we have Search Out, Lauren's being a guinea pig with our metasearch product, which we really appreciate. He's been great to work with. So I think it's just like,
Lauren knows a thing or two about Meta.
just a bit,
just a little bit, not much. I'll defer to Scott on all this because I'm excited to try to get this thing rolling for some of my clients, because it is to me a viable, as you pointed out early, first off, is if you're going to play against the space in the OTAs, then you're playing on some equal footing at some point. Not that you're always going to win it, and to Ed's point, that you have to be strategic about it and pick your times as to what's best, because they just have such deep pockets. You can't beat them at everything all the time. But
actually,
once in a while,
let's be honest, you can't beat them at most things.
That's true.
You have to accept that, because when you accept that, then you can focus on the things you can kill them at.
Sure.
Which, by the way, further up the funnel, you can destroy them. If you win earlier in the guest decision path, you're playing a game they can't.
Right, but and this is like a bullet to the gun too, because it goes back to channel control, channel distribution, and working your revenue strategies, knowing that there are times that you can't drive to your direct channel, and you need to use other channel methodologies and balance out the cost factors and so forth. And you need, for instance, the metasearch exposure program at certain times. Even down to the point, dare I say, that at certain specific times on certain specific days, because there is a lull. The giant does sleep every once in a while, and there are times that you can place yourself well positioned if you know what those times are. That's pretty granular, and it doesn't always be very cost effective. But there are times that that you can place yourself, but you need that tool. You need that ability to step into that space, and that's why I'm so stoked about thinking that we can work with Sojourn and get that thing going, because it would help, especially for the individual properties and getting in there. So yeah,
definitely.
Lauren just called you a tool.
But a highly effective tool. It's a compliment, but it sounds weird.
I'm saving my subtle insult for later. So. It's all true, and I think that, kind of like I was talking about earlier with search, how organic's just slowly getting pushed down by Google because they're not really getting paid for that. You can tell metasearch, they popped it on the right-hand bar for the right-hand rail, and it's been there for the Google Hotel Ads product. But now you're starting to see, and you guys may have seen this too, they're experimenting with putting that on the top of the page, which I think is going to be a game changer, which will, it'll bump down the paid search, but it'll, make organic even less effective. And I think a lot of properties are just like, yeah, I can rely on my organic, update a few tags and links and I'll be fine. But truly we see that, we are effective at getting you at, in that section at the top of the page. And I think a lot of people, if they see Expedia, Hotwire and the official site of the hotel, a lot of times they'll click on the official site because we're driving a ton of traffic. And I think Google, gives a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to the official site and will kind of cut you some quality score benefits so that you're actually allowed to compete with the OTAs who just throw money at it. But, you really want to...
For now, they do that.
Yeah, for now, exactly. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen tomorrow? They're always changing.
Although I will say, in the hotel ad space, I've come across some clients that are playing with hotel ad. You're still not getting fair placement. You're still getting screwed. So on hotel ad, if you put in your dates, if you look, it's still going to be Expedia and Booking.com and TripAdvisor and probably someone else. And then you have to click more to see the hotel. So you have to understand that doesn't mean you give up on it. You still should be there, because there are consumers who will look at it and will, believe it or not, there are consumers who don't trust Expedia. There are consumers who don't trust Booking.com. They're looking to see if the hotel is there. So you still want to be there. You want to figure that out. But the other thing to really think about is how the fact that exists now changes everything else in your marketing. It makes it even more important that you capture a relationship with that consumer on property. That experiment is a early approach to Google taking over the transaction. When Google takes over the transaction, you better own the relationship once they're there, or you're done. Like it's Google's hotel. And of course I'm blowing it out of proportion, but that's because that's what it takes to get hotels to pay attention to something early, is to talk to them about how it's going to put them out of business.
But it is true that if the pipe is controlled from inception to completion of transaction, and they don't have to touch you or us or anybody, that does put it into a whole nother commoditization for the property, because at that point you are a fixture for sale. You've lost your ability to control your own, and it's not a matter of being direct channel or third party channel. It's literally the methodology of discovery that they control. I mean, they're the fountainhead. Yep. So yeah, there is that concern, and yeah, it is calling Wolf a little early, but it is something that if it's going in that direction, which is likely to do that, then we have to be prepared for getting that relationship built, and that goes through the process of discovery, the channel utilization, getting them into market, getting them connected, and then communicating with them afterwards. Because unfortunately, there's this very big focus on acquisition, but very little focus on continuation of relationship.
Yeah,
so,
well,
yes.
and again, going further up funnel, because here's the bottom line: when someone knows dates, if someone's putting dates in Google hotel ads, they've made their decisions, meaning that's super bottom of funnel. You can win way up the funnel. Know what the search terms are when someone is open to multiple trip opportunities, right? Before they've narrowed down where they want to go, that's when you want to start getting in front of them. You want to start convincing them why they should come to you, and your hotel website needs to sell why travel to your area, not just why stay with you. It's what's in it. What is the secret to an amazing trip here? Those are things you can start working on today, so that if the thing I just cried wolf about becomes true, you're not ceding your ability to actually have a consumer relationship and effectively drive demand to your property.
So, Scott, I told you before that we owe to no one. There is no sponsorships. We refuse anything like that. We want to make sure we always have a nice unbiasedness to it all. And we told you unabashedly that minus being a sales pitch, we'd love to know more in scope of Sojourn. I mean, not secret sauce of what evil plan.
No,
you
we
have
want to
for
know
taking
secret
over
sauce. Tell us secret sauce.
Okay, okay. Be honest,
Good
we really
news
do want to know
is,
secret
good
sauce.
news is, Scott, no one's watching, so
no attention to anybody to be watching. It's just our conversation. But as you're building the metrics and the ability to do the meta search, I mean, to me, I'm thinking about the promise that creates to dynamic ads for travel and things, because once that infrastructure of connectivity of inventory and consistency of availability and rate availability and so forth, the cataloging can go on. That opens up doors beyond what you're thinking about with meta search and so forth. Mm-hmm. Is that even possibly, or can you even say, is that that you guys are looking at saying, wow, if this works, then this is the next thing we can be thinking about too?
Yeah, no, I think we're still, obviously the main focus is on making meta search and still search, growing search, but making meta search a success. And we've seen some great results so far, and that's why we're excited to get your properties on board. But yeah, I think we're always thinking the next step ahead, and kind of the core of what Sojourn does is our traveler profiles. So I think we have over 300 million traveler profiles now. And so we know about, and it's, maybe a little creepy in some regards, but we know what people are doing out there. So we have all these data partnerships with large companies. So say you book a flight to JFK from SFO, will know that, and we'll start getting an ad for our customers who are in New York, our hotels that are in New York, in front of those people. It's much more top of the funnel, like Ed was talking about. But I think that stuff's important. Like if you are getting exposed to properties like, okay, I just booked a flight. Now I'm starting to kind of noodle on what hotel I want. If customers and these data partnerships we have are so valuable, and we're continuing to learn even more on how we leverage those. So yeah, that's like our bread and butter where we started. And then, yeah, we've been kind of moving more down the funnel, because I think it's important to make sure that, the OTAs aren't just sniping folks who are doing research and like checking on TripAdvisor, like, oh, this property's great, I love it. And then, they just go to Expedia to book because, sometimes they'll drop the price by $1 or $2 to be slightly cheaper, even though everything's supposed to be in rate parity. But you guys probably know how that game goes. So yeah, that's why, we've got our search product. We're rolling out metasearch. Yeah.
Now, are you with the profiles that you have and so forth, are you beginning to apply a little bit more definition to demographics, as into the type of travel or the type of traveler, so that where you're looking at between point A and point B, obviously now there's the window of opportunity as to the destination dates, and you can apply that, like you just said, hey, here's my inventory in the market that I know you're going to. But is there now some refinement of definition of saying, okay, I also know you're traveling for business versus pleasure, or family versus individual, and you're applying those to finite that out? And then, because like, for instance, and I'll be candid about this, New York, with clients that I have in there, there's a massive cancellation percentages because people just flood out and book a bunch of series of different places, waiting to see what washes out for whatever reason they have. It's an unqualified reason.
Because Booking.com train the consumer, that's how they should book.
Okay. It's true. I'm not going to go, but it's true. I mean, you basically said, "Hey, look, book everything, and then let things let the wheat go with the chaff," kind of thing. So, are you guys refining that methodology of identifying the traveler?
We are, and yes, and to Ed's point, like now that I've been at Sojourn for a couple years, I've been booking direct a lot more. But I totally know I used to book like 6 hotel rooms via Booking.com, and then you kind of wait and see where your trip takes you, and you're like, okay, I kind of want to be in Times Square, so I'm going to cancel the 5 others. And I didn't really think about how much that is awful for the hotels, right? Like,
well, and so that's an interesting thing. You're new to travel, like you came from a more sophisticated world. What other sort of things? What other sort of things have shocked you?
It's interesting. So I'm not going to come in here and put on blast the travel industry, but it's definitely a different beast. Like, things just move at a different pace. When we were at StubHub, it was a great place to learn. Same with eBay. eBay, we built our own system to automate bidding across. Like, they had definitely hundreds of millions of keywords, like could have gotten close into the billions, because they'd capture every time someone searched something into the search bar on eBay, they would capture that and have that as a potential keyword to push to AdWords. So I love learning it there, and we've replicated a lot of that at Sojourn on the search side. So we have, so I work with a team of data scientists, and we built our own bidding algorithm. So basically, our customers, we update all of your keywords based on the data we get multiple times per week, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I think it's tough in the travel industry. Like, I came in, I was talking about auditing some of the accounts earlier, and sometimes folks would just go into AdWords, set things up. AdWords has their suggested keyword list,
and just go, yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Exactly. We had a hotel in San Diego. I'm not going to say their name. We've righted the ship for them, but they literally
large or small, bigger than a bread box or smaller?
A little bit bigger than a bread box, but I don't know how big the rooms were. But yeah, like, we went in, I looked in, and they had flights to San Diego as a keyword for their hotel. It blew my mind, and I started laughing, but then I felt terrible. I was like, they're spending like thousands of dollars per month just because Google like served this up to them, and
so what's also worse is the automated ad generator too.
To any hotels, lazy with that too. To any hotels watching this, I want to point out that Sojourn hired someone from outside the industry that didn't know anything about travel. It's okay to do that. You can do that as a hotel as well. I highly recommend that for certain aspects of your business, you hire someone who doesn't know travel. They can learn travel.
Yeah. And we have people who know travel who I've worked with, so we get a good
who are teaching you travel.
Exactly.
And you'll learn travel. So this is one of the challenges I think that the hotel industry has, which is a conundrum, because one of the things I'll say about the hotel industry, probably some of the best employers of any industry, because they care so much about developing their people. But you have to understand, in order for your business to be whole, you need outside perspective on certain expertise. Okay. You should hire people who have developed the expertise that you need somewhere else, and hire them.
I think Ed's compliment is much better than mine, where I called you a tool, but in a complimentary way. Ed's saying that, hey, you know, it's good that they brought you on board, not having been from travel, working in their travel space. So he's giving you kind of a good compliment, I guess, but it's better than the one I gave you.
I'm sure
Mine doesn't have a backhand.
I'm sure I'll listen to the tool later on, but I'm just trying to butter me up until the biggest.
But it is true, because we complain about this a lot, or at least pointed out a lot, that there's an incestuous self gratification to people within the organization, thinking that they're the only ones that know our industry because it's so complex and so unique, and all the other words that they want to identify as being why somebody outside can't understand it. Where to Ed's point, when I used to run hotels, I loved hiring people that didn't work in hotels before, because they saw it for what it was from the guest experience. When they walked up and nobody was at the front desk, they just saw it as, well, that seems shitty because I'm supposed to check in. I would walk in and say, oh, it must be shift change or whatever, because I'm familiar enough to know what might be going on to make it an excuse for it. And the excuse is there should be no excuse. If a guest walks up, there should be guest service, period. Whether there's a reason for it or not, fix the reason. So to your point, were you stepping in when you looked at it from what you were doing, and you're like, my gosh, you know, we're doing all this complex keyword evaluation, analysis, growth, expertise, and then you walk in and these hotels, whatever size they may be, are taking face value. Oh, I must spend money on that because I was told by the only platform that I even look at that that's what I should be doing. And next thing you know, they're wasting money and not understanding why they're not getting results. So
totally agree. And we can leverage, there's a lot of things within AdWords, or Google Ads now. Sorry, it changed officially 2 weeks ago. I'm definitely going to call it AdWords for at least 6 more months.
Forever, yeah.
But there's a lot of cool stuff we can do. Like there's audience targeting. There are things called RLSAs, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but it's basically a way to take user lists from your website and you can attack them with custom bids, custom ad copy. So say someone has done a search for a room on your booking engine. What you can do is you can go back into AdWords and you can say, all right, this person is close to booking. I'm going to double or triple my bid, or put them custom ad copy that's really going to draw them in. So there's a lot of stuff that if you don't know, it's just, you know, you'll have to, it's hard to figure out on your own, basically, and we can do that for you.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, that goes to the fact that, and this is something you bring to the table from the conversation from being outside the travel market into it, everything's constantly changing. We say that all the time on the show in business. Mr. Stuart Butler!
Hey guys,
Back, may I introduce to you?
Back from Ireland.
Yeah, back from England. Stuart is with Fuel Travel, just so that you know. But as we were saying, is that the complexities of the changes that go on, the ever changing, like you mentioned, it's not AdWords anymore, or Google Ads. You know, it's changing, and what they use and what they offer is changing. And so unless you're in the space perpetually, you're never going to know all the things that are now available or get stopped. I mean, Facebook made its changes in what it limited because of its pushback from the analytic issues and so forth. There's a constant flux of good, bad, available, not available. And a hotelier is worried about running a hotel, and an ownership group is running about their inventory, not so much keeping up with the variations of these things that are available. So
yeah, a great example of that would be Google AdWords basically fundamentally changed how they did conversion tracking about 2-3 months ago when they rolled out their new UI. And you're not going to know that if you're a hotel. You're not going to want to make all the back end changes on your website. So that's what's great about, you know, working through someone like Sojourn, is we take care of that all. You don't even realize, and we've taken care of it. So,
by the way, Stuart, Scott's from Sojourn, just so you didn't know.
If you hadn't figured out, I'm just plugging random companies right here. You know.
Just a fanboy of Sojourn. I'm related.
I am, because they let me play with the meta search. They're putting my products in.
Yeah. Cat at Sojourn, you know that Sojourn's awesome.
Yeah, Cat, we love Cat. Cat is amazing.
Someone like Cat.
I was talking to Kat yesterday. She had the best things to say about you guys. She was like, "You're gonna come on and have a blast." She was like, I've been on a couple podcasts, not nearly as cool as this. That it's just like it's so dry, and it's just like you go through slides, and like sometimes they don't even show the people's faces. It's like people are just literally reading off what's on the slide, and you're like, "Why am I?"
It's
here?
the Best Buy. It's the Best Buy experience.
Exactly.
Go into Best Buy and see an expert. They will happily read the card off their product description for you to say that they've provided you customer service. No, you won't get that here. Unfortunately, though, it's at the expense of any type of focus of topic or
value of content.
Right.
Content. Dude. We're randomizing what we have with topics and so forth, which is why we love when
I've
we get
been
to
doing everything I can to not make some type of snide joke about the vapor machine.
I was just about to say that.
This is my happy spot. This is my Zen space.
Is that sandalwood?
It's either that or it's because Lauren left an open container of yogurt on the counter and he's just trying everything. I decided to use lemongrass today, an inspirational centering of smells that will bring us back to. I just happened to like. Okay, the real reason is because I buy toys like that, and if I don't use them regularly, my wife will remind me why I bought something that I'm not regularly using. So I have to every once in a while just turn things on like that says, "No, look, I use it all the time." Look, it wasn't a waste that I bought that on Sky Mall. It really is a lot.
Come on. And that aerator, the things you walk in the grass with the spikes, I use that all the time, even though I don't have a yard anymore.
He's aerating his neighbors.
When I walk the dog, our yard is aerated, all right? Sorry. But see, and this is exactly what Ed's point is. We digress.
Stuart, welcome back, Stuart. By the way,
I missed you guys. It's been a while. It's been a few weeks. So
we weren't sure if you were going to come back with like a full Cockney accent or something.
If you talked to me last week, I would have probably sounded a lot more chip tally ho, kind of that kind of stuff. But no, I've been back in the States since about 1 a.m. last night. So already got back into the swing of talking Australian again.
That's right. South African.
South Africa, We pick on Stuart because nobody actually knows, even though he has a very, very specific sound, where he's from. Because it's like, hey, you're Australian friend. I'm like,
that southern drawl.
I'm just like, he's from Australia.
Yeah, sure. I get it all the time.
Scott, what else is going on with the world of Sojourn, or what else?
So a lot of exciting stuff. So you a couple minutes ago were talking about Facebook, and we now have a Facebook product too. So we're trying to take over every aspect of marketing you might want to do. We acquired a Facebook marketing partner called Adforus, who has just a lot of expertise in technology. They have this optimization engine they call Marvin that basically takes everything and kind of like the data science team and expertise we've been building on the search side. It comes in and optimizes the Facebook campaigns we're running for you. So do you guys, like Lauren said, are you guys running Facebook ads right now, or how do you guys dabble in there?
Yeah. Oh no, that's kind of a perennial aspect of. Well, I mean, it has its ebb and flow, but it's pretty much a perennial thing that we're doing.
Yeah, and that's what's great about kind of we can build off of all the learnings we have from our profiles, and again, make sure you're not double paying between search and display and meta search on the Sojourn side. But like I think it's super important because of you can do some crazy targeting on Facebook these days. So we just knew we had to get in there, and we're seeing great.
You said you guys bought it. You bought the platform.
Yeah, so we acquired a company called Adforus. They're based in Istanbul. Yeah, they're a Facebook certified marketing partner. Definitely go check them out. Facebook actually just sent out an email, and they were one of the kind of highlighted companies with like a case study. So we're stoked. They're great. It's a great group of people out there. I'm looking forward to visiting Istanbul sometime to go to the office. But
they're going to send you out? Yeah, nice.
I hope so. We'll see. I'm actually going to our Dublin office and our Paris office at the beginning of November. So I'm half Irish and I've never been to Ireland, so it's pretty shameful there.
Stuart was there last week visiting his family.
He
But,
actually went to England.
I'm not going to bite it. I'm not going to bite it.
No. But okay. Well, just wait. Just let's hope that the Turkish tariff thing settles down. That they
Right.
release the American who they want, and it's a happy place again. But I have heard from my family that has visited there that Istanbul is a absolutely spectacular city, amazing city to visit, but a cautionary city as well.
Just don't
as well.
wear the wrong football shirt there. You might get in some trouble.
Yeah. Which one should he wear, Stuart? I mean, which one?
I don't know. I would stay away from any colors because you're going to offend someone.
Yeah, probably so. So back in the eBay days, and what were some of the things you worked with?
Yeah, so we, on StubHub, it was kind of like guerrilla marketing there. It was basically me and two other members of my team, and we just went nuts in terms of like digging in, doing crazy experiments in AdWords. Before they had all these tools that you could help with the bidding, we were pulling data, making pivot tables. Like we just got really down and dirty with the data, and that was the eBay model, or the StubHub model was they did a lot of AM radio ads. I don't know if you remember, like they're just really kind of loud, catchy ads. And then that was top of the funnel. And then you drive people to do a search for StubHub or do a search for Red Sox tickets, and you'd see the StubHub ad there. And I mean, those are expensive clicks. Red Sox tickets, now Warriors tickets, those are anywhere from like $4 to $6 per click.
And were you guys running campaigns on individual events? So if there's, a concert going on, are you running campaigns on that to that granular level?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's going to be quick. Wow.
It's pretty weird, but it was 2007 when I was there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but Hannah Montana was like the biggest thing going on then.
It's the president of the fan club, Hannah Montana.
Actually, these after the show when I shut it off, I flipped these, and it's Miley Cyrus signed posters.
So,
Hopefully she's not twerking on those posters, but
no, but
she's dressed up
Billy
with
Ray Cyrus
panda
is.
there,
So.
It's the 7th episode in a row where someone mentioned twerking.
oh wow,
It's weird.
you got to keep that going. But yeah, so we would get in there and because that's the thing is, those tickets, face value, they'd be $35, right? Mm-hmm. But they'd get sold out immediately, and then parents would be like, I have to get my kid this ticket or they're going to be a pain in the butt for a week straight screaming. So they go on and they pay like $300-$400 for these tickets. So we'd get these up and running, and she'd have 40 concerts on her tour. We just get them up and running for all the different cities. Our listings team would make sure the listings were there. We'd drive them to the right spot. And you'd have like 500, 1,000, 2,000 tickets, starting price at $300. And StubHub, they take, then it was 15% on the sell side, 10% on the buy side. Like their margins are incredible.
Wow.
Not quite like airlines where we know those, those are razor thin. You don't have much to play with there, but so you had to just get down and dirty and spin things up.
When you were doing the marketing for those things, because you had the market specific to the concert itself, how much geo-targeting did you do with your marketing strategies, or did you just keep general in-market presence and rely on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. We wouldn't do a ton of geo-targeting.
Partially because in 2007, there wasn't a lot of capability in geo-targeting.
True. There was a good limitations to how well you could do that. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very true, yeah.
The geo-targeting was pretty funky back then. I don't know if you remember AdWords, you could do weird custom shapes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And stuff.
But we typically wouldn't do a ton of geo-targeting, just because oftentimes the search terms we'd have would have so much intent. So we would, Hannah Montana tickets, Omaha or Detroit or whatever, you could point them to the right listing. And then we had really good splash pages. So if you just search generally Hannah Montana tickets, you'd be on a splash page and it showed you her whole concert, her tour list. So, I think it's something we probably could have played with, but there was so much to do and it was also tough to automate, right? That's what I learned at eBay, and what I've taken from that applied at Sojourn, is that when you're working with, so I guess take a step back. StubHub, the range of keywords is actually pretty confined, right? Mm-hmm. So you have Red Sox tickets, and you can create all sorts of variations, but at its core, it's Red Sox, infield seats, dugout seats. So it's a pretty limited category of keywords.
Stuart, he's talking about baseball. Just if you were
I thought we were buying stocks.
But yeah, so you can, in eBay's world, it's like literally, as I was saying, like hundreds of millions or even billions of keywords. And travel, it's kind of a happy medium between the two, I would say. But it's still like there's so much out there that you have to find ways to automate things, which is what we're doing. You do search or you do Facebook through an agency, and you probably have some kid who's like a year out of college who's working on your account, and he's got 45 other accounts. So how much time per week is he really spending on getting in there and automating it and optimizing it? So that's where we come in. We have, thousands of hotels that we work with on display side, hundreds on search and Facebook. And we don't want to hire folks who don't know search, who we just throw at it and tell them to figure it out. What we're doing is, as I was saying, we have our engineering and data science team, and it's like, how do we get so much data? How do we leverage that, and how do we automate the optimization of everything so that, bids get updated? We push an update a couple times a week through the AdWords and Bing APIs for, hundreds of thousands of keywords. And like, you don't want someone going in there and doing that manually, because you're either going to be paying them a ton of money, or they're just not going to do it, or not going to do it well.
Right. A good bad story to tell, back since I was asking about geo-targeting, but in 7 and 8, I figured out a way that I could spoof my competitors by finding out where they were using their analytics tracking sources, because there were certain providers that were doing their analytics stuff for them. So I would geo-target those areas and make a dummy campaign on keywords that I wanted them to think I was bidding on, so that they would exercise their option of trying to fight me on those while I was actually going to the other side and using other keywords that they didn't know.
Wow. If you put your evil genius to good, Lauren.
advertising,
Probably that is crazy.
I was quite
So
proud
nefarious.
at the time.
But here's the
it's
silliest
really
thing
smart,
about it.
but holy
Here's the
cow.
silliest thing about it. His competitors weren't even.
Yeah, they weren't smart
advertising.
enough to look at those keywords. It's funny.
They got the report and they're like, oh, he's making a move on these keywords, or our competitor hotels were making keywords. Let's amp up ours. And while they were chasing that fish and burning money, I went off to the other side. And,
Red herring.
Well,
You're making a
obviously
big
the tool
assumption.
doesn't work anymore, so confession's over.
Has to be smart enough. They have to be smart enough to be looking, but not smart enough to figure out what you're doing. So that's like a little window of
He was
smartness.
going
that
after
competitors
3
had to be.
people.
Yeah,
I'm going to get these 3 people.
that's right.
It was Tim Peter, Robert Cole, and
I won't even tell you how I'm hijacking your all's blogs, but that's another story. No.
That's funny.
That's funny.
We've been playing around recently on AdWords in getting really granular in geo-targeting, but with the same kind of ad groups. So what we do is we'd run similar ads and just manipulate the bid based on the geographic targeting. And we found that we can really spend a lot less money, have more exposure, and get a better ROI by splitting out campaigns geographically.
Really?
Which you wouldn't think would really work, but I guess the math works out with the way Google is going to prioritize, because the more granular you get with targeting, the better your quality score is going to be. So we end up paying less for the same person than if we hadn't geo-targeted them. So
It kind of goes back in hand in hand. The more you added filters with maybe not the same, but the same mindset, the way you explained it, the way I'm thinking with Facebook is the more I added filters, the more prioritization Facebook seemed to place upon my ads, because I was willing to accept a reduction in exposure, but a specificity to the marketing targeted. And maybe, but the point, that's pretty cool. I hadn't thought about that.
It's a lot more work. Obviously, it's a lot more work to implement and manage, but we end up running this essentially the same campaign across multiple geo-targeted campaigns, and sometimes variations of keywords and ad copy, but a lot of times you end up running the same one, and it's really effective. And the other thing we've seen recently with AdWords, which is really interesting, is Google's gotten really good at suggesting ad copy now, and they're breaking their own rules. So, for example, if we push up an ad that has 3 exclamation points in it, it might get rejected. But Google's saying, hey, try this ad with 3 exclamation points and it might actually work, and you can just approve any of the ones they suggest, and it automatically gets approved because they suggested it. So definitely pay attention to.
So when it's your idea, they say no, but when it's
yeah. Yeah, it's like my wife. All you know, just gotta let them think they thought of it, and we're good.
Now, are you having problems with them automating some of the ads without your permission?
Yeah, we are. So for sure.
Okay,
So there's
I'm
some way
having the same thing.
they're
We're getting some
recommending
weird
things, keywords they're recommending, and other stuff, and we're not accepting, and they're going ahead and automatically running it for sure.
Yeah, because I had one where they created a bad scenario for me that they pulled our best rate guarantee option up when we didn't have it anymore for what it was, but they pulled it out as a content value and put it into an ad campaign, and then it flashed back at the hotel like, this isn't honorable, and it's like, well, here's the freaking ad. They'd actually screen capture and show it, and it was like, where'd this come from? And it's like, it was one of the ones that were pending. They kicked it live. We didn't know it until after it already done the damage. So
you've got to, there's no replacement. Using the AI and the automation that Google's offering now is great, but there's no replacement for human, managing that and making sure that something untoward isn't happening for sure.
Yeah, one of the keys there is totally agree. Search query reviews are something that I don't think a lot of smaller hotels will do or even know that it's there. But basically, you can see what people actually searched, put in the search box, and like which keyword it matched to of yours, and you'd be amazed at what you see in there. There's some weird stuff, and if you're not proactive about going in there and sometimes hotels just have names that are kind of unfortunate that match to kind of weird stuff, and if you're not in there, you're gonna.
It's like the hotel I was telling you about this morning, Lauren.
Yeah. I also find fertile ground with misspells on that. To your point, Scott, is that on some of the weird search, the longer string 5 and 6 word function stuff, that the misspells are really easy fertile places to grab because people are being sloppy about their query. But if there's enough of them, which indicates that it is, then you can just throw an ad up for it just because nobody else seems to be worried about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. And using that for negative keywords as well, making sure you're blocking out the stuff that really isn't relevant to you. There is no intent to buy at that point. And then using the query report as well to generate content ideas. You might see that people are looking for, maybe you have a modified broad match or something like that, and it's got your brand name in and maybe the geography, but the people are looking for a specific amenity or near to a specific location. You can get really good ideas for content from that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perpetual thing I put in a presentation with HSMI's Rocket program, where I take the hotel that we're at for the session and literally pull up a query for their name just to point out to them that they are not. Well, a couple reasons. One, I show them how many things are tracking on their website that they don't even know exist. Yeah. And two is all the other variations to their name that they didn't know where they were fighting against, because whoever's handling, and I've never not found them having a problem, no matter who their vendor is, that they are not negativing out useless stuff.
It's because you haven't done a Rocket in Myrtle Beach.
That's right. If I did one in Myrtle, man, there'd be nothing going wrong. No, by the way, Stuart's in Myrtle. But the point of it is that they're sloppy because they're fighting a lot of negative word stuff that they don't need to, because they're not. Their agency or themselves internally haven't cleaned out that list. They haven't brushed it out to only fight on the things that they're looking for revenue. So, yep. Scott, what else would you like? Because I have a couple of the float out talks that you are more than welcome to join us in. I'm really keen about the loyalty conversation that Google put up as an article. That's when I want to throw that. I hope you can hang around.
I want to talk about attribution modeling too with Scott. Well, we got him.
Well, hey, there it is. Okay. But Scott, is there something else that you have, or you want to jump right over to attribution?
Yeah, I think we've done love that you guys have interested in talking about search, and Facebook is something that I encourage hotels, if they're having trouble with, to reach out to Sojourn and just have a chat about hey, learn how we do Facebook, because I just think that it's not quite as intuitive as Google, where it's okay, Google kind of guides you through tell me your hotel's name, the city your hotel is in, your neighborhood, and it's pretty easy to kind of create keywords and ads. But Facebook, the targeting is so different, and if you, we were talking earlier about how the more specific you get, the more Facebook kind of encourages it. But a lot of people, they just might be females 35 to 55, but
you spend a lot of money.
Facebook, you have to go in Facebook, you have to go in with the persona that you're looking for, or the profile that you're looking for, where Google will tend to hold your hand and bring you to the people it thinks you need to know about.
Right. Well, I think what it is ultimately, to advertise, you should always have a strategy, right? with Google, you can get away with not having a strategy because it's such an easy tool to use that you can probably make good return not having a strategy. But exactly. You can accidentally make good return. You can make a whole lot better return if you have a good strategy and reach a bigger audience. With Facebook, not the same. If you just try that spray and pray mentality on Facebook, you're going to end up spending a lot of money to build either worthless assets or to not generate revenue. So you really got to go in there, like you said, Lauren, with personas and with strategy.
Well, and the problem with Facebook too is if you go in without a strategy, you're also probably someone who falls for vanity metrics. So you'll be spending
400 likes.
Yeah, you'll spending a ton of money and thinking you're doing great.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, right? There's a lot of agencies out there that will spin that, and that's their reporting is all geared around here's how we look the best, not here's how it helps your business the best.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah. To that end, I have to say, and this has been something, a mantra that I've been running with for a while now. I just had the pleasure of being out in Las Vegas speaking about it as well, is that you and the revenue managers in your organization or the hotels or whatever have to be referring to the same KPIs. And so all of our conversations now with the revenue team and the property, as we discussed, it's all about total revenue. This is $480,000 on the books. We're $167,000 shy from goal. We're $287,000 shy from budget. It's we're talking dollars in quantities, because then when we talk about specifics of conversions and value propositions, it's okay. We're doing these many conversions, and we all know that the conversion is a 2.5 day stay, ADR of blah blah blah. Total value proposition per conversion is such and such. And so when we're saying, well, we can bring 22 conversions on this particular campaign because our current click-through and conversion is this, then we can forecast that forward into the mix and say, well, we can bring another $86,000 to the table by end of month. That's how we're talking now. Instead of, oh, I got a ROAS of 10-1, or you know what, we got to your point, Ed, I got 10,000 more likes to our posts about us in the bathtub with a candle. You know, it's an entirely different conversation that we're having now because we're putting it in the same KPI language, and it's. I think it's a transition point for our industry when it comes to the revenue management marketing. Because, and let me ask that of you, Scott. I mean, coming from outside the travel industry, did revenue management and marketing were they separate, or did they kind of work together?
Or was that called e-commerce?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, and like, you know, along those lines, like the crazy thing to me is just the cash flow of advertising on hotels is crazy. Like, to pay for upfront, you know, clicks, exposure, views for something that, you know, you're not going to get paid on a checkout for maybe 6 months down the line is nuts to me. Because like StubHub, you know, someone clicks through, they buy right away, StubHub gets paid. It's great for cash flow. We don't have to pay Google for net 45 or whatever, you know, it is. But like, it's crazy. Like, you know, and that's what I think is also great about the Rev Direct model with Sojourn is it's kind of a self-funding model, right? So you work with an agency or you do it yourself, you're paying Google or the agency up front, and you're not collecting for, you know, 6 months down the line, or if there's a cancellation, you're not collecting at all. But, you know, with Sojourn, you're not paying until after the person completes their stay.
I don't think it's actually that bad. I mean, because booking windows have shrunk so much. I think back in the day, it was really atrocious. But
depends on the type of property. We just picked up an account. They're an extended stay property, and they have 75% no-show rate because a lot of extended stays don't take the credit card at booking. You can make a reservation, and so they were spending a ton of money, ton of money on AdWords.
Why wouldn't you take a
and
credit
measure
card?
ROI?
I'm sorry. Like, have you asked that question?
We're in that conversation.
Okay, because like,
but to be fair, a lot of their demographic does
do.
not have a credit card, so.
Okay.
Yeah, or does not have the funding in their current account, their checking account, to put it on a debit card even. So it's a whole different category. We're learning a lot. But yeah, 75%. So then they're measuring ROI on AdWords, and 75% of people don't show up. I mean, you've got to factor that in for sure. So we're helping them with some of that metric stuff now.
So you wanted to talk about attribution, Stuart.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this as nicely as I can and be a gracious host, because I've been vocally opposed to display advertising on a number of occasions on this show and on our podcast. I believe in the concept. I just think that the valuation of it is a little wonky right now in the industry. Now, having said that, I think Sojourn does a better job than anyone else in the industry, the way they've approached it, and are trying to fix some of my fundamental concerns with attribution modeling. But I feel like there's gaps in data that we need to resolve if we want it to be as legitimate as, well, I don't know if legitimate is the right word. I think it is legitimate, but I think
legitimate, but I think
as accurate as I want it to be.
Anything that's missing the case that, so someone on display is going to be deciding between investing in display and investing in something else.
Correct.
Listen, they may both be the same amount of effective. They may both be the same of everything else, but people are choosing not to go with display because of the fact that there is a question. And again, Sojourn is better than most, but a lot of the players who have seeded the display market in travel have used less than savory methods to get their attribution, and holes are easily shot in it.
Right.
Like anyone worth their salt with Google Analytics could point out that you're claiming this, and no, that wasn't you.
So Scott, right now, Sojourn's attribution model, if you're doing the percentage, right, what percentage does a hotel pay of commission on the booking? What is the percentage they pay?
So it varies. It could,
Cool.
probably be kind of, maybe anywhere between, I think maybe like 13 and 16%. But
Right,
it just
I was
kind
thinking
of
around
varies.
that. So 12 to 15 was the number I thought from memory, right? So, and it's based on attribution of someone that saw an ad, maybe clicked on it, maybe didn't, but they was served an ad at some point. And what's the time decay? So it's within the last 30 days, 7 days, 12 days?
So typically our default is a 7-day look back window.
Okay, which is shorter than some, right? Some of your competitors go up to 30, which I have a problem with.
Crazy,
right?
I don't.
So the premise you guys are selling is that, say Ed he loaded CNN, right? And he saw an ad at some point in the last 7 days. It was loaded to him, and as he was reading through all the great news about Trump on CNN, then he maybe saw the ad, maybe didn't, and at some point after the fact came and made a booking on the hotel site. Now, for that booking, you're going to claim, say, 13% of that, right? There's a gap in data, right? The gap in data between what happened when he saw the ad, how influential was the ad, and I think we're all in advertising in some form or fashion, so we would all agree that advertising has an influence, right? I think that the question I have is, what is that influence? How do you measure it compared to other opportunities to get in front of the consumer? So assuming that person did nothing else in between, they saw the ad, that's the reason that Ed is going to go on and book. Great. That's an ideal world. I think your valuation is a fair one. 12, 13% is fair. Now, because it's similar to a little bit lower than some on the OTAs, right? Which are direct bookings. But we all know that's not how the world works. We all know that person maybe saw the ad, maybe paid attention to it to some degree, maybe had an influence to them, probably to some degree, but then probably had some other activity between. Maybe received an email, if they'd been to our website, signed up maybe at some point. They maybe saw a Facebook ad as well. They maybe saw, went out and did a Google search found Expedia and got exposed to us again. There's other touch points. And right now, we don't have an ecosystem in the industry where we can measure all those touch points to really categorically say that this booking is a result directly, exclusively from Sojourn. And until that happens, I really have a hard time personally trying to figure out the valuation of that ad.
So Stuart, one of the things you missed because you weren't on yet, because I kind of touched on this a little bit after he introduced Sojourn's search capabilities and how that's also running off of a commission program, and it actually dedupes against the
great, right?
The display. And I actually made a comment that's actually really compelling, because one of the challenges is when you're running search marketing through one provider or even direct, and then you're running display through a provider, this becomes really difficult to say, like, really did the display ad do it or did the search ad do it?
Yeah. And then
when
how much did each do it? What
Right.
was the value? Or even if we could come up with some kind of split model, because even in that scenario, which is great, and that's why I say Sojourn is above the majority of the competition in the market at what they do, because they think the right way. They're trying to get to where we want to go. But even if that was the case, I'd still be running ads in other places that are going to get missed, right? So what I would love to see, and there's probably a question here at some point for you, Scott, and we'll let you respond. But what I would love to see is there a way for the data that you're collecting on that consumer to be combined with the data that we're collecting on the consumer in a GDPR compliant way that allows us to really see a 360 view of every single touch point, and then come up with an attribution model which is based on time decay and multi-touch point and maybe whatever the customization we want of the attribution model is. But that right now I haven't seen a way to combine our data and your data in a way that does that.
Right.
Yeah, no, it'd be great points all around. Like I agree that I think that the attribution model across, just online marketing in general, like, probably even more so as you dig into hotels specifically, just isn't where it should be. Especially as you say, if you're running display with this agency, search with this agency,
right.
Get into Ed's point. So I think that you do see a big benefit running them, more channels through one provider. So that's why, obviously, shameless plug, it'd be great to do display, search, Facebook, meta search with Sojourn, because again, we can dedupe and take care of all that. But like, I agree to your point. Like, if I were running a hotel, I would have a pretty crazy attribution model where everything's being tracked. You can have, time decay setups. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do to try and, partial credit, to try and capture that. It's probably not super realistic at this point for hotels to like get that set up. So, what I would say is that if you have questions about that, just talk to us. We want to know what your concerns are, what you're thinking. We kind of have our basic out of the box attribution, which works well for a lot of hotels. But like, if you know what you're talking about, we would love to just hear you out and figure out a way that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Now, to your credit too, I mean, I have a question also, but as a statement, every time in any contract I've had with Sojourn, I make it a stipulation of frequency of return, group block. I mean, when we purge through the list for commissions, was it a previous guest? Was it a group block guest? Was it group code? And you all have been very good about purging what we can test as being our clients or our repeat guests that may have touched your product, but they've already been to our product. And so we can test that it's our guest. They may have been exposed to your ad because we're working with you, but it doesn't mean you solicited them to participate. With that said, with the involvement that we have with you, if I were to ask you a question, because I'm a huge fan of time decay frequency as my attribution. I like those two influences within my attribution string. And if I came to you, especially with doing meta search, us doing the display advertising, and said, look, I'm trying to piece together my attribution string. Can you purge out dupes with what you're dealing with me and give me a clean string that I can add to my string and see how it compares to what I'm tracking for the process? Is that an answer that you can give me? Is that something that you could share with me?
I think we would love to have that conversation, right? Like if you're able to talk to that level of expertise and you know what time decay modeling is, like we love that kind of stuff because you know what you're talking about. So I think that like we want a solution that works for you and works for us. So like just talk to us about it. I'm not able to say like each case, like, yeah, we can definitely do that because we don't know exactly what you use for attribution, right? So
because I'll share that data with you. I'm honestly, as a pony up, I'll go over and I'll share my attribution
in a GDPR compliant way.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'll be careful with how you do that, Lauren.
GDPR compliant way. Yes, as a because we're not going to give explicit,
with a California Privacy Act thought process,
yeah, and the Canadian thing and a few other things that get tossed in just for fun. But yeah, and for the record, those words I used, I stole from Stuart. I don't know what the heck they are. I just stole them from Stuart.
but to the point to anyone watching, understand of all the companies doing this. First of all, the reason why Sojourn was invited to be on this show is because they are trying the hardest to be fair and equitable. yeah, and they're in a spot that unfortunately there's a lot of bad actors.
Yeah, I'll give an example of that, and I'm not going to name names because I could probably get sued. But one of the big competitors to Sojourn, I was having a similar conversation to the one we literally just had, and rather than Scott saying I'd love to have that conversation, let's figure out the better way to use our data. They said, well, if we do that, then your client's going to end up paying less to us, and then you'll get less commission. So it's in your interest to keep the price as high as possible. And I'm just like, I'm not doing business with you.
I'm so shady.
Not going to do business with you. If your value proposition to me as an agency is it's better for me at the expense of my client, then that's just ridiculous. But that's the situation this industry's in. There are a lot of agencies out there that are selling display ad en masse, taking budget away from things that have traditionally worked, in putting it, just dumping it into display because they make a bigger profit on it with doing less work. And that's my biggest contention. It can work really well. You've just got to go into it with a critical mindset and the right attribution and the right partner like a Sojourn.
Wow, I went from being called a tool by Lauren when I walk in.
Yeah, you missed that too.
That was a compliment.
To be fair, that's probably the least insult he's ever given any of us.
Yeah. He does it with a smile.
He does, and a cheeky wink. Yeah.
No, I think that's right.
A wink and a nod.
That's right.
Stuart, you're right. There's so many shady players out there, and I'm not going to name names either, where like they don't want to talk about this stuff. And I think it's
smoke and mirrors. Yeah,
exactly. And
they can show a report at the end of the month that says it's a 7 to 1 ROI.
Let's be fair on what the important takeaway from this is the reason shady players have been able to exist without anyone realizing is because no one's asking them the right questions. Mm-hmm. And as part of their sales process, if you ask them the right questions, they stop trying.
Yeah.
Because you're not their customer. Their customer is the one who is happy to say, hey, I'm getting this taken care of and I'm paying it only if they book something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have
Scott,
a picture. Yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
It's another question to operationally. I mean, do you have a frequency modifier for your campaigns? Are you working on, or do you have limitations as to exposures and value proposition as to your display advertisement and so forth? Is that a control that you have?
Yeah, we do have controls on that. So I will... I'm more on the search side, so I don't want to say anything that's not exactly right in terms of like the number. But I do know that we're not.
Just make it up. That's what we do on the show all the time. If we don't know,
we're definitely we're not blasting people with 100 impressions a day. Like we've got a reasonable cap because obviously cost effective for us. We don't want. Plus, it sucks to see an ad 50 times a day. Like that actually makes you not want to stay there or book there, right? You're like, I'm tired of these guys. So we definitely make sure that it's a good experience for. Obviously our customers, the hotels, but also the potential bookers. We don't want to overload them with impressions.
Because that's another problem in the market that we're in with what you do is that there is the flood and the absolute disregard for the negative aspect of the frequency modifier. I mean, it happens in retargeting as well. It's just this now that you've touched us, we're going to just flood you everywhere for everything and every opportunity and piss me off. Where it's like I don't want to do business with it. Maybe I was going to. But you've so inundated your exposure to me and don't know when no means no because I'm not touching your ad anymore that I will not do any business with you because if I do, I'm going to see it for another week.
Yep.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing on a cross-device tracking perspective? Because I know Google has their own proprietary kind of way to do that, but are you guys with your data that you're collecting able to identify people cross-device as well?
Yeah. So it's a good question. It's getting tougher and tougher, especially with GDPR, to really know what's going on. So we know that people are seeing it on both desktop and mobile and like multiple mobile devices.
Sure.
So I think that it's something that we're continuing to work on, but I think it's impossible for anyone to get that full insight into like.
Yeah, unless someone's logged in on multiple devices, you're guessing a lot of the time. Yeah.
Well, and this is where content marketing strategy comes in, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to better track cross-device and over longer periods of time, you need to give different points of conversion that give you the opportunity to pick up understanding that this person was both this desktop and this device.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you doing? With that being said, now to your point, GDPR restricting some of that granularity of being able to define some of this stuff with the profile that we had talked about before, where you're looking at not just the fact that there is a travel destination from a source destination, but demographically the potential purpose of the travel and defining the methodology of messaging them. Are you, even just from that level of understanding some of those things, changing your ad copy based on platform to kind of say, well, assumedly, if they looked in the AM on desktop, then assumedly in the afternoon, we can maybe change the ad type to consider that they're more advanced in their thought process. So we're going to not render the same ad. We're going to render a advanced thought ad where it's assumed that they're coming to market and here's a value proposition. Are you guys kind of slicing it that way or looking that way or doing something completely better than that?
Yeah, I think that, again, I'm a little more on the search side, so I don't want to overspeak to what's going on display, but I love talking about it, so keep asking away. But yeah, so basically what we try to do is we build these profiles, and we try to gather as many data points on them as we can. So we will try to be more narrowed with our approach to the user, but we also don't want to make too many assumptions and like put assume we know something about them and put an ad in front of them that just, might not be that effective. So yeah, I think it's something where it's like, we just want to continue building up our profiles and know more about users. And then, also try to get them more targeted ads, but it's, I don't know if you guys have tried it, but it's not easy getting definitely the right ad in front of the right person. Plus even we try, that's what we focus on, but to that level of granularity, we're just continuing to, get better and better at it and build up our profiles.
What about things like searcher or not search intent, buyer intent? Like, do you in your profile for the individual, are you quantifying how likely they are to book in the next 30 days and getting more aggressive with their targeting for those individuals? We're doing stuff like that on email. It's the reason I asked, where we've started really using AI to determine certain characteristics that are not, black and white definitive things, but we're quantifying through some kind of scoring system that this person is, likely to spend more money based on what they've searched. They're likely to book in the next 24 hours in allowing us to change what we target to them based on those kind of data points. Are you doing that on the display side as well?
Yeah, so we're that's the great part that we have is, we have this data science team and they're wizards. Like, it's amazing what they're able to take of just some giant set of data and actually kind of figure out what's going on there, figure out who's kind of a little more upper funnel, kind of just dabbling in a vacation, and people who are more all right, I'm deciding soon. So let's get in front of them. Let's get a better ad in front of them. So, it's definitely, again, on the search side, I'm not working directly on those projects, but I know they're working on them. I'm showing up at the engineering meeting, so I know they're being worked on, which is great.
Cool.
It's always fun, those conversations when you have engineers around a table that have marketers around that table, because sometimes they don't speak the same. It's funny. It's like the engineers can build anything that you ask them to, but you got to kind of ask the right question for them to build it. Meanwhile, marketers don't have any clue on what it is they want built for them, but they certainly know what it is they would love for it to be able to do. So it's kind of it's fun to get that bridge working between those two sides of the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I joined on the product team 2 years ago. And so I literally am that bridge, and it took some getting used to, but it's been awesome. You build these relationships with both sides and make sure both are heard and both understand what's going on. Cause I totally agree. When you get engineers and marketers in a room, you can have some interesting conversations, but in terms of actually executing, you have to have some sort of plan and roadmap for going forward.
See, Stuart's a unique beast because he's split in two. He's two personas. There's the marketing Stuart and there's the engineering Stuart. So he has these conversations in his head. The problem is one side of it has lost the argument a year ago, and we don't know which side it is yet.
Well, and if you ever spend enough time traveling with Stuart, you know that the marketing side is a character named Mrs. Nesbitt. And it's really strange when she gets
assortment of hats she likes to wear.
Yes,
flowy hats.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. But no, good. Scott, was there any other thing that we want to make sure we covered from the Sojourn perspective? Because you've been gracious with your time. We asked you for a half hour, and we're at an hour and 15 minutes already. Yeah,
no, I had to warn you.
Yeah,
no, I love it.
This is like sitting around a table with coffee with friends that have the same interest to it. So we appreciate that you had more time with us today. So was there anything that you want to make sure we didn't miss?
No, I think we called it out along different ways. Just like definitely, go to Sojourn.com, reach out to us because we want to know what you're doing right now for marketing. Like if you feel like your agency isn't doing you right or you're not getting enough, information and clarity on what's going on, like we want to talk to you. We want to hear what's going on because, I think that, RevDirect has been such a great fit for so many properties where it's like we take care of your display, search, Facebook, and you don't have to worry about it. You're not ponying up to Google right off the bat and spending thousands on keywords like flights to San Diego. We're running the campaigns for you. We've got our data science team cranking out bids, optimizing things, and you're only paying after the stay, net of the stay. And like Lauren was talking about, which I appreciate you bringing up, is like, group bookings, loyalty bookings, things like that. Like, Stuart, a lot of those kind of shady organizations you're talking about are coming and sniping those. Yeah, they won't let you. You're paying for those for sure, or they're at least reporting them as bookings that they drove. And I think it's just I think encourage you to check us out and have a conversation and see if something fits.
That's great. Excellent. What I wanted to make sure also was for in future tense, if people want to reach out to you as to want to follow up with questions, maybe follow up with a little bit of what you're talking about with what Sojourn is doing, how can they reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, so would love to have chats with anyone on any of these topics. I would say easy way, maybe just go to Sojourn.com, fill something out, ask for me, or my email address is scott.mclin@sojourn.com. I don't know, Lauren, if there's a way to like post that somewhere just so people.
I will.
Okay.
Well, it'll be in the show notes, and also I'm going to put it
great.
Just add a link up there as well.
Everywhere on the internet, so you're going to get a lot of.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty much going to spread it everywhere like butter. But
actually, I've already deployed it on the Sojourn display advertising.
So yeah, you're going to get a lot of unsolicited, maybe not relevant emails, but that's okay too, because we have some websites we connect to that maybe we don't want to know. I had it actually queued up into the chat link. I did. If you have time to still spend some more time with this, I wanted to throw this because I thought this was an intriguing article that came out of Google, and it goes. We've been having this kind of perpetual conversation related to loyalty, and this article kind of struck me as a new interesting. It resonated with me because I've been frustrated with defining loyalty and membership, and I've been poo-pooing on pretty much any effort that's being done within our industry right now as being nothing more than a frequency-based relationship. And I thought that Google's interpretation of this, I don't give credit to the agency they associated themselves with, although they're not a bad agency. I think Google came up with this and they tied it with the agency as a unique split as to how to perceive loyalty relationships with their guests, and basically what they're referring to. If you I know I'm throwing this on everybody just as out of the blue. Hey, by the way, read an article while I'm talking about it. Is they're talking about attitudinal loyalty versus behavioral loyalty, which I find very interesting because it comes the way they refer to it. And I'm not trying to just read out of the article for instances, but attitudinal loyalty comes down to what people associate with your brand and how differentiated you are in the total customer experience. Where behavioral loyalty is a matter of being present with content tailored to your audience when they need it the most across all channel and devices. So what it's basically saying is I don't see. That's why I brought the because I really thought.
I think they're trying to separate it a bit because, quite honestly, in the attitudinal loyalty is where you're going to drive better profitability. These are people who are through the experiences they've had and their understanding of what you have to offer, they're going to be less sensitive to the price point versus the value proposition because they're coming in with either, or they're going to be more sensitive, if they don't have attitudinal loyalty. But this is that unlabeled thing, and I hope it's not attitudinal loyalty.
Yeah,
is the label. Like it's a bad one.
But
really, if you spend time looking at what it is, it's the loyalty that's driven through the sentiment. like through the things that you build up to sell your value proposition, to sell the intangible of your offering.
Right.
It's that.
Yeah, I think my best example of that would be, RIP at this point, but Virgin America. Like, I love flying them, and I love trying to get the best price on everything. But with Virgin, I would just go straight to their website every time and book. Like, I knew it was a better experience. I had, my loyalty, get points and all that. I knew maybe it'd be $20 cheaper on JetBlue or something. But like you're saying, Ed, like, I don't mind paying a little extra because I have that loyalty to them.
For me, it resonated too, and I've talked about this on the show before. There's a Residence Inn in Mobile, Alabama, that when I have to travel between here and Texas or something, that's the halfway point I stop at. I'm not a Residence Inn loyalist. I mean, I'm not out, like, I got to stay at a Residence Inn Marriott anytime I travel. And then for that matter, I'm not even a Marriott loyalist saying I got to stay at the Marriott whenever I travel. But I am loyal to this hotel because if I'm going through that market, I will stay there because of all the things I appreciate that they do. So I found that I had a hard time up to this article really trying to define what the difference of that means in the sense of, why I'm being loyal to them, being a brand, being a flavor of a brand and so forth, compared to, and it boils down to that I'm loyal to the specifics of that product itself. And I think this is where I like to translate it to the independent hotelier side, the niche or the Achilles heel to the brand loyalty question that they're trying to crack, where I've had independent hotels that are like, my gosh, Lauren, there's a flag that's coming down the end of the road, and I'm having my regular guests tell me, I love staying with you. I've always loved staying with you. But now that there's a brand flag opening up down the road, I'm going to stay there because I'm pointing up points so I can bring my family on that vacation at the end of the year. And you don't offer that. And up to that point, the only bullets in the gun I've had is, what's the cash value of their lifetime relationship that you want to maintain per year? Offer it to them as cash and say, when you're in my market, stay with me. Go find points at when you're staying in other markets. But when you stay in my market, I'm going to reward you for staying with me directly. Here's a card that's cash on it that you can use for your trip with your family, but it's not point driven. But now I'm looking at it because of this article, like, hey, maybe there is a definition of process that says, if they say they're loyal to you, how can we exercise that value proposition to them in a way that keeps them coming to you in your market, regardless of what brand relationships they have outside of that? So I thought it was the first article that I actually saw that put into words, maybe not the, attitudinal is a funky word, but at least it defined the differentiation for me for the first time that I appreciated it. So that was a pretty good article for that, in that sense to it. And to that being said, there is another one that was kind of a fun one that was Bloomberg popped up with it. And that, let me throw this in here. This was how people there were some things that they pointed out in that article I didn't even know people did to skate on points. How they would go over and book, because Starwood had the frequency program, book hotels that they would go and check in, because that was a requirement. You just couldn't book it and pay for it. You had to check in. So they would check in and just leave, just so they could get the frequency to hit their mark. That and the article is pretty good about. Really, I think one of the reasons why I like the article was the first time it gave me clarity as to how some of these nuances between the Marriott Rewards program and the SPGers converged and operationally for all the different levels.
So these this is a subsect of the traveling audience. This is the road warrior who's, and you've heard this before, like, oh man, I'm booking a trip this weekend just because I need one more flight to hit my blank status. Well, it's because 90% of their flights that year were paid for by their company. Mm-hmm. And so they squeaked out one extra flight to make sure that they hit the level that they needed to hit. Like, this is the same idea. It's gamification. This is gamification. Yeah. I mean, it's really what it is.
It is. I mean, it is purely that, and to the end, I feel bad because some of the stuff that they were doing that was open in the blogs and the forums of people that were those hardcore road warriors, they were doing these things. And I'm like, man, I could have been doing that too, because some of the ingenious ways that they were buffering their loyalty rewards programs of how they were surfing the ability to hit their goals for membership rewards.
Right. Those are the staggering. Who also like ruin sales commission plans. Like those types of forums, those are the people who ruin systems because they go,
they always look for ways to take advantage.
Yeah, look, I can game this.
Usually that's Lauren. He's just pissed he didn't think about
that's what I was saying. I was like, why didn't I think of that? My gosh, I could have done that for years and been doing great. But no, I was impressed with the ingenuity of it, but also to the point of this article, I was really impressed with this being the first, I think, detailed description of the combinations of the two programs and how they created the 17% breakfast being offered, the expanded breakfast being offered by Marriott, where they weren't, because that was a big SPGer problem, is that the breakfasts that Marriott offered, SPGers basically poo-pooed on all Marriott Rewards people because to them it was a lesser relationship than what they had with Starwood. So really, it was kind of a fun article to see how complex, because I didn't give credit to Marriott on how complex the merging of this all had to be.
Oh gosh,
the implications on both sides. And this article, I thought, really brought a good point out too.
I mean, how dangerous it is to get wrong. I mean, that's like class action lawsuit could have come from that if mishandled.
Yeah, for sure. Good point.
Yeah.
Now, the only last one that I had that I thought was fun was I didn't know this existed, and I felt foolish for it because the client brought it to my attention. And that is local ranking in mobile. I did not know that was there until my client asked me, so what's my ranking for my hotel? I'm like, Dundee what? and how to find it is not easy either. I mean, you actually have to just look at general destination, have the hotels come up, and then go into that hotel, scroll far enough down that you see your local ranking score.
It's also similar to like what Zillow does on houses for their local ranking. Zillow does that on every neighborhood there is.
The scary part of this for me was on reviewing all my clients with this, there was information Google was offering we didn't even offer in our own content.
No.
I know. I failed. I was going to jump off my roof, but I'm only on the first floor, so it's a little rough. But it just because there was some proximity stuff, because Google's so good at knowing where everything's at, that I didn't create those correlations for that were front and center on the location value of that particular property. I'm like, I'm that close to that? Really? Never thought of looking, So, but it is kind of an interesting score. So far as I know, I haven't found anybody above a 4.1. The score's supposed to go up to 5, but I've only a 4.1. Fortunately for me, when I sent back the answer to my clients, everything was a 4 or 3.9. So I'm like, oh yeah, we're
good. Take care of this typical agency response.
I optimized the crap
it's all good. Yeah. Been on this for months. We configured, oriented, and optimized that. Actually, I'm painfully honest when my client goes says, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention because I did not know this popped up." I mean,
that's fine.
It's kind of, if you're not honest with your clients, you're not going to get very far with them. So it's like, dude, thank you so much, and we're good. If we weren't, I'd be fixing it.
All right, but you are fixing it, right? You can leverage the data you found there to improve the content on their sites.
So
we already dropped it.
And I have been absent for a while, and something big has happened in this industry that I think we could have a very good conversation about.
We did, and we did discuss it last week. Please do, yes.
So as I'm sure all of you know, is Amadeus has purchased TravelClick
for somewhere between 0 and a shit ton of money.
It's a lot of money.
Was it 1.5?
Also known as $1.52 billion. Billion.
On operating, was the annual revenues about $500 million a year or something like that? So I mean, they're paying a good lick,
That's not a premium, though.
Yeah, but I mean,
no, a premium would have been more than that.
Sure,
because their profit margin is pretty healthy.
Yeah, I don't know
on that revenue. It has some massive implications. Amadeus. First of all, I really think it was a European play. For those of you who may not know watching this, TravelClick's European division is probably one of the most dominant CRS divisions out there. Like, they own the market. So for Amadeus, who has completed their big corporate initiative with IHG and have been rolling it out and are kind of getting to the end of that project, what do you do? What do you do when you've spent so much of your company's effort in this vertical on a CRS platform and a PMS platform? Well, you got to bring it down market in order to make the money. And gosh, I think TravelClick was a good buy because, since Robert Cole's not on this call, we're missing our historian. But for those of you who don't know, iHotelier was not built to be a CRS. It was a booking
Dude.
engine.
Yes.
And the many times that TravelClick has had to rebuild it is because they continued to hit the edges of their development capabilities on the CRS aspect of it. And so I
For
think
the record, I think iHotelier is a gerbil and a wheel in the bottom of a basement somewhere in Carolina. Because they put so many layers of the onion on that thing, it's
Wow.
scary. I figure one thing's going to break it because it has its dysfunction out. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
So yeah, you totally just derailed me. So I think this is a fantastic buy for them. They also pick up probably one of the most aggressive sales forces in this industry. Say what you will about TravelClick, they've always been a sales company first, product company second. Now you're taking Amadeus, who's a really good product company, and giving them a pretty substantial sales force. I think this is going to change some of the dynamic amongst the big players in this industry.
It's a shift for sure. It's a big shift.
Do you think they're going to keep TravelClick as an entity, or is it going to get basically absorbed into the collective because it's not the technology of it is not what's really, I mean, their connectivity right now is the high value, and their client base, of course, is the high value, but their operational and platform base is not the high value. I mean, do you see them just being absorbed into the collective of Amadeus, and those two features get used, and the technology just gets changed?
Well, they're going to have to. TravelClick notoriously is under invested in R&D over the years. Thoma Bravo corrected some of that, so some of their stuff's gotten better recently. But I mean, prior to that, if you heard what their annual R&D budget was, it was sickening. It was less than a full-time employee per product per year.
Probably.
No,
Yeah.
it was.
Oh, really?
Well, they've
Well,
been aggressive on acquisitions over the past couple of years too.
Yep, they ate up ZDirect. ZDirect is, and then that wasn't a
There's
bad
still
platform. It
Alchemy
had
as
a
well.
terrible user interface, but functionality wise, it was good.
Picked up this fantastic company called Easy Yield. I mean,
I heard that thing was a tank. It wasn't doing well.
I heard the product was great. It was just the upper management. That's where they.
Oh yeah. Totally misguided
horrible
platform.
culture, they just got lucky.
Scott, for the record, the founder of Easy Yield is Ed, so we love him on his.
kind of pieced that one together, but I can't piece that one together.
Yes, he walks into every room. Hi, I'm Ed.
I do not. I do not Cornell Easy Yield. Okay.
I'm pretty sure you dropped an Easy Yield the first time we met at High Tech.
It's because I figured out that you were at one of my parties years prior.
This is true.
So to be fair,
This is true. There was context.
Ed treats his parties like attribution strings are treated with competitors of Europe.
That works.
Scott,
I mean, how come
if you
looked
touch
it up
my
then?
party, you're mine.
I throw a damn good party.
That was good. People jumping into swimming pools, all kinds of stuff at that party.
I remember New Orleans party not too many years ago. That was a lot of fun too. Yeah.
So, anyways, so I think this is if you now look at what Amadeus has, so they have New Market, they have MTech, which really great products in their own right. They now pick up TravelClick, which gives them a strong CRM game. Because say what you will, I mean, ZDirect was a solid piece of technology, and then picking up Digital Alchemy gave them the agency side.
Yeah, and I want to say New Market used to have a CRM product.
They
too.
still do, but it's all on group side, and it's sales.
Okay. Yeah.
New Market CRM is Salesforce.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they already had some, pretty strong practice in that, just not on the, tour and travel side, but still had it. They have venue mapping, so catering groups and events, back of house fulfillment, PMS.
It's a vertical, man. It's the whole vertical now.
Sure. Yeah. And now the reason I'm also bullish on it, TravelClick has been notorious for being difficult to partner with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a detriment to their customers. Amadeus, on the other hand, is probably of all the big companies, one of the easiest companies to partner with. You can actually go to their site and become a development partner and develop in it. And if they like you, they'll invest in you. I mean, they have a pretty good approach to that. So you're taking one of the big players in the industry that was probably one of the most walled gardens of a tech stack, and you're putting it into the hands of a company that has been very open and forward thinking on it. It's
interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how their priorities shift, right? What is their focus going to be with TravelClick? You know, how are they going to align these different divisions into a single? What's the end game? I mean, are they trying to create a complete vertical solution? You know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But
I think they're trying to be the core. I mean, because let's be fair, and a lot of people don't realize this. Amadeus is huge.
Yeah.
You know, that purchase price was 1/4 of their revenue a year.
That's insane.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, but, you know, and this has got to be one of the bigger acquisitions they've done.
Right. But so for example, though, does their agency business, the TravelClick agency business, is that, you know, which is typically not as high margin as the product side, is that a good thing for the agencies like Fuel that are out there that sit here and saying, hey, you're not going to get the love anymore because that's not their focus?
Right. I mean, it's quite possible that the lower profitability offerings that honestly TravelClick was only offering so that they could keep other vendors out of the verticals they care about.
Right.
You may see that. You may see that disappear. And you may end up seeing someone like Fuel end up writing into the CRS API of Amadeus's CRS. And really, then, are they a competitor?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Do they become more of a walled garden as well, or do they say, "Hey, we've got the whole ecosystem, and it's us or not"? I don't see that happening. But I think Amadeus is historically, like you said, have been very open. So is it just this is the core? You can use all our products, or you can plug and play other ones? Because I think that ultimately that's the kind of solution that's going to dominate the industry. The one that has a good core, but lets you do what you want beyond that.
Yeah, that is going to be a hard question because, I mean, historically as an industry, our holdback, our ecosystem has been, I'm not going to offer our connectivity to somebody else. I'm going to build it for you and keep you proprietary and keep within my constraints. And, you know, Amadeus for the first time can actually break that mold and say, no, we'll allow connectivity, but you have to stay on our vertical. You know, which would be a huge change. I mean, that would be a fundamental.
So who do you think's quaking in their boots a little bit? Who's going to be negatively impacted? Yeah, Sabre for sure. Got to be a little nervous. It's be interesting to see how they respond, right? Do they go out and look?
Why now's a weird time to be Sabre. So Synixis is getting old, or whatever they call it now. Sabre Hospitality Solutions, or it's still the same product it was when it was HubX. But you have Pegasus, who should change their name to Phoenix because they're kind of rising from the ashes. With a very advanced product. I don't know if any of you have taken a look at it, but it's a modernization of what a CRS should be. So you have that happening, and now you have the company who was your constant tug of war that you were dominant over. I mean, Sabre's been dominant over TravelClick for a long time. Is now owned by a company with really deep pockets, and it's a company that is stable. So, you know, another challenge for TravelClick is they've been for sale for a long time, and
they've been on the fringe,
which means they've operated as a company, maximizing P&L and you know, EBITDA, not you know, long-term viability. So, I think and I honestly think this acquisition will have more impact than Oracle buying Micros, which is probably the next biggest acquisition that's happened.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
History.
I definitely agree. Sabre should be sitting around in some hallowed halls right now, deciding what it is they want to become, because they've also on the low food chain that I deal with them on have not been the most supportive, guest centric, client centric. Kind of a take it or leave it mentality. We'll get to you when we get to you based on how important we think you are. We're not going to fix that because it's not important enough or value enough for us to do that. I think all of those things have to be put on the table for their higher levels to look at and see whether or not they have to reevaluate their market presence, that they can't get away with just treating people at the discretion of their own value. I don't want to, Scott. You've been fantastic.
Yeah, Scott. If you need a point of exit,
you're more than welcome. I mean, we love to have you with us. I mean, we're not trying to push you out. It's just you might be being courteous to us, and we're like, dude, don't worry about that. You're more than welcome to. And always, please, you have an open standing invitation to ever join back with us, just like this again, for whatever reason. You don't have to be a guest host or anything. We put on the spot. Just if you want to join the conversation, it's every Friday for us, and you're more than welcome to pipe in at any time.
This has been awesome. I love chatting with you guys, Ed, Stuart, Lauren. Like, thank you so much for having me on. Would love to come back sometime soon. Maybe.
Yeah, we'd love it.
Yeah, maybe after you get those meta campaigns up and running, Lauren, we can check back.
We'll have something to talk about. Like, look at this. I'm a rock star. Yeah. Every Friday, I'll keep you an email loop on the invitation stuff, so that you'll always have it. And if you don't have a direct invitation link, just by joining the show on the Bitly link or the link to this platform, you just have to raise a hand and say, "Hey, can I join as a presenter?" And we can throw you, because we can handle up to 6 concurrent screens. Well, at least
perfect.
we do. But
maybe we'll do a tag team with Kat sometime. We'll bring her on. And
we keep telling her she needs to come back, because we loved when she was on the show. I mean,
she's
honestly,
the best.
She was phenomenal. We still to this day don't know how you end up getting her, because she's incredibly talented at a whole lot of stuff more than
another
what you guys
freaking
ever do.
backhanded compliment.
Right. Maybe I don't want to come on.
Deserve her.
Yeah, we don't know you deserve her.
My way. No, guys, it's been a real pleasure. Really look forward to coming back. So
nice meeting you
Thanks
guys.
for being on. Yeah, really nice to meet you, Scott.
Yeah, great meeting you guys. All right, I'll hop off and let you guys take it home.
We're gonna wrap probably up anyway. Yeah, we'll wrap it up as well.
Great weekend.
Awesome, great guys. Take care.
See you. Bye.
God, take care.
God, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm full of backhanded compliments today.
Store today,
Yeah.
because my God.
Yeah.
Hey, we love you here. I can't imagine why you have such talented people working for you. Good luck.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming. Hey, actually, you know what? I have to say, I really enjoyed the conversation with Scott. I really enjoyed his candor. I mean, he didn't have to share what he shared.
Yeah.
And Stuart, thank you for bringing up the attribution string, because I know we have banged that hard several times on the flaw of the product that they're associated with in the spectrum of them and everybody else. And he was very nice about being straightforward with what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
and what they're not.
I liked how he answered it. He didn't try to be apologetic. He didn't try to deny it, which is what a lot of folks in that space do. They just kind of dismiss it.
And then there's a compliment to him too. They are trying to fix it too. I mean, they do listen.
But they actually care about longevity in this marketplace.
Right.
Yeah, which I think is why they're moving into the spaces. And to be honest, until he's mentioned it, I didn't know they had moved into the Facebook space.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like a natural thing. That's why I asked him about it, because I mean, if you already built the infrastructure for the Meta, dynamic ads for travel, I mean, that's a no-brainer next step kind of thing to it. But
But hey, I was going to ask you, Lauren, are you running much many video ads like on YouTube?
Just started running more. Literally, just started running more. I just finished a whole series for 2 of the products in New York that I'm just now literally launching.
All featuring Holly talking about how she appreciates the luxury aspect of the hotel.
It's a real asset.
I did steal that one and slice of it. Yeah. Right now I'm doing, short answer, because I did 30 second, 15 second, and 6 second.
Yeah.
I did them on 16:9 aspect. And I'm about to do Squarespace ones.
Yeah.
And I'm doing lead, mid, and final drop. So I'm trying to hit all 3. I'm just trying to literally, just to you say spray and pray. I'm just right now. I'm laying down the track on all of them.
Yeah. Well, it's cheap still, right? There's still arbitrage going on in video advertising. It's because it's a little tough to measure the return based on.
All I can say is nothing is more maddening than watching a 2-minute video on Facebook and having to sit through a 15-second commercial like in the middle of the video. It's like,
in the middle is it drives me crazy.
I put one out there. I'll be fair, but I'm also not expecting that one to be anything. I want to lead in. I want an end, and I'm not real happy. I didn't even want to do the 30-second one, because to me that's 30 seconds too long. 15 I was okay with. And to be honest with you, the 30 seconds is 24 seconds. Yeah. The hurdle that I'm finding with most of the clients is they're just intimidated on the product build. I mean, to build a video, when you really want to sit down and build a video ad, you kind of have to know what your intent is, and you got to have the content. You got to have the images, the video piece.
Yeah. So we've been experimenting a little bit, because we've been doing the 15-30s for a while, but we got a couple of clients now. This is the second year that we've been running some 2-3-minute spots, like actual more kind of educational, kind of just inspirational
more
kind of things.
Infomercial,
some infomercial-y things, but it's it's interesting, but the reason I brought it up, I don't know if you've been running for long, but those ones that we're running for longer, so say 1 to 2 minute kind of ads, we're seeing that the number of people that are watching to the end has increased significantly year over year, and we don't really know why. We're trying to figure that out. But we got a couple of clients that are running. One of them was 1:55, and they got, according to Google's data, 40% of people that see the ad are watching it all the way through. It's a little tricky because the watching it, seeing the whole video doesn't necessarily mean they saw the whole video. It means they either saw it all or they clicked on it at some point. They clicked on one of the calls to action, and they don't really differentiate between which they did. But yeah, 40% of people seeing a 2-minute video seems questionable, right? So that's,
well, also don't forget they can also open another window and do something else while the ad's playing.
This is true.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but I mean,
But most
that's
of
interesting.
it skip ad in 15 seconds, you know. So I don't.
What
Oh,
kind
so
of
you're
content-
saying they're not choosing to skip the ad? They're
Right.
being presented.
We're not forcing them to. I don't think you can force anything over a certain 30 seconds, maybe.
Well, then that's
No, you
super
can't. You can't
impressive.
force over a 30-second. 30 seconds is the max you can force.
That's super
people.
impressive. If they had a chance to skip the ad and they didn't,
Yeah.
you're
And they're
doing-
decent ads, you know. We're playing on nostalgia and stuff like that in some of the ads, but not that. I mean, I
What
said
content?
there's
are you
no
using?
way
Are
I
you doing
would sit there and watch it.
destination marketing thing, or how? What?
No,
for content for
individual
that?
properties. Talking about, family vacations and creating memories. And back in the day, we play a lot in the Myrtle Beach market, especially. We play a lot on nostalgia, because it's a multi-generational destination. So, you remember the simpler times when things were easier and you didn't have, all these distractions. And
You put white letters.
you
of
want
words
that
on
for
the
your
back of
kids,
the
And so that's kind of the play we have. They're decent, but I wouldn't say they're compelling to the point that 40% of people that are exposed to them that are trying to watch
I don't know, man.
potentially
Like,
watch something else.
you only have. Do you have Publix up in Myrtle Beach?
There is a Publix in Myrtle Beach, yeah.
Do they run commercials on TV?
You know what? I don't watch TV, so I don't know.
Because
I would
Lauren,
imagine.
you'll know what I'm talking about. They play on nostalgia. A Publix.
Oh, by far.
it'll make
yeah.
you cry.
To the-
It'll make
to
you
the
cry.
store, you know.
Yeah.
We're not doing that coupon thing. We just do BOGOs because we're your community neighborhood grocery store.
Yeah. It's good
You grew
approach.
up with us.
Yeah.
Their bakery. Well, and to be fair, their bakery is one of the best bakeries that ever been. So.
Can you email me some time for next week? By the way, I have to get you caught up on some cool new things that
Sure.
I want you guys.
Secrets. Yeah. All right.
And
Oh,
I
no,
have
it's
to-
not secrets.
talking about
We're helping agencies put their retargeting capabilities, ad retargeting, in the advocacy path. So
Oh, cool.
being able to retarget friends and family, even like different aspects. Like, don't forget, like someone who claims an offer for a future stay with us has a certificate. You can put a pixel on the certificate so you know that they've recently
When
clicked
they're-
the certificate.
smart,
So
actually.
they're starting to look. So being able to build strategies on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
send you some
Well,
times.
For that to make sure that people understand what we're referring to, Mr. Ed with Flip2, which I little did I know that Ed had spies in an audience in Las Vegas. That here I am,
Lauren's
happy.
telling Las Vegas
Ed
how to
has
weaponize Flip2 against your competitors. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, it kind of irritated me because I put this challenge down in these presentations and say, give me your worst revenue problem. And the room was silent until finally MGM popped up and said, hey, we're rebranding and reflagging this property. And so I was trying to solicit the room to help participate in the process. Well, obviously, competition-wise, they were going to help a competitor. So I got a little flustered and said, great. In that case, I'm going to tell all the tools that they should use to steal business from everybody they're competing with in this market. So I proceeded to just machine gun out methodologies. And of course, I threw out Flip2 as a, part of that component to the process of it. But it wasn't a mean conversation. It was one that I saw other people realize this stuff can be used for good or evil.
I always knew that Ed was up for world domination.
Use all the massive amount of sentiment-based content that we create and target that at your competitor's most loyal audience to win them over. My gosh.
Yeah.
Lauren. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So I get a text message. Lauren's on stage telling MGM how to use Flip2 to steal their competitor's loyalty program. It's like, yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Lauren would do.
But anyways, so for that in mind,
That's
gentlemen, Stuart, I got to chase you down for something else. But if they want to find you and what it is and your amazing podcast, I mean, has the podcast been going while you were gone too? I didn't even look.
Yeah, we posted. We go every other week during the summertime, so we posted while I was gone. We recorded actually. Ricky from Flip2 was on the last 2 episodes. We were talking about our travel or technology study that we pushed out with Flip2 and Stay in Touch. So we did one where we kind of broke down the findings, and then we did another episode, which was the last one, where we solicited feedback from the vendors. So after we published the data, we went out to a bunch of vendors in the space and said, what do you think? And they said, here's what we think. So we did an episode just kind of recapping that too. So yeah, if you go to fueltravel.com/podcast, you'll get those episodes. And then if you want to download the study as well, you can go to fueltravel.com/tech study and get that there. It's great. You should read it.
Very nice.
It is.
And by the fact, this afternoon I get to go over. I've been asked to join the Business Insider podcast today.
Oh yeah.
Which will be interesting. So I'm going to see how that turns out, what kind of questions they pop up with. Mr. Ed, if people want to find out more about you and Flip2, where is it that they can go?
If you want to find out more about me, Edward St. Onge, on social media, I will warn you if you're on Twitter, I dedicate my Twitter time to promoting the UCF football program and its mistreatment by the College Football Playoff Committee. But any other social network,
He carries that
mostly
soapbox wherever he
business.
goes.
And then if you want to learn about Flip2, you can go to flip.to. And Lauren, if people want to spend the half an hour to type in a URL to find out about what you care about,
If they're
where
a
should they
fast typer,
go?
they can do it in 28 minutes. They could do it in 28 minutes if they're a fast typer. You can watch this replay of this show or all of any of the 157 previous weekly shows we have done for over 3 years at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. And if you want this show in particular with show notes and links, it is hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/158. So with that, gentlemen, I am going to go over and thank you so very much for the time. Well, next week, I do not have currently a guest host scheduled. Maybe Robert will get from his drunken stupor of what kept him off the show today. He referred to it as meeting an old Cornell buddy in Nashville, but I think that's code for, hey, there's moonshine and music here.
Yeah, to be fair, he's hammered most of the time on the show, so I don't know really why that stopped him.
And he's not alone most of the time, so it's an okay thing. But anyways. All right, gentlemen, thank you so very much. And for everyone that watched the show today and participated, thank you very much. We'll talk next week, next Friday for show 159. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.